Hello everyone, this is Paul the Oaken Knight coming to you once again, and this time we're going to be taking a second look at what was probably my most popular video series to date, and that would be the League of Dungeoneers, a dungeon crawl, not just dungeon crawl, a whole world system for outside dungeon, inside dungeon adventuring, in the town, everywhere you can think of. It is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons in a box without the need of a dungeon master. It can be played by one person, it can be played by up to 4 people, but the game itself is a tour de force on dungeoneering. The game was created by Michael Lundstedt. It's hard to believe that one guy could make this game. It is so detailed and so much in there, but my understanding is that's exactly what he did over a period of time. And his company, Von Braus Publishing. I knew there had to be a story behind the name of the company, and I went to the website that he's got. On his website, he talks about how he and his brother played World War I air games as kids, and one of the pilots that was the Red Baron of his world was Von Braus. So that's where the name of the company comes from. I think that's cool. All right, so I've got the 10-pound package, or however many pounds. It's an immense heavy box filled with dungeon goodness for version 1, and frankly I didn't see the need to go and get another 10 pounds of cardboard. So what I did is I signed up on Kickstarter when they made the announcement to get the update kit. So what I'm going to talk about are all the components that came to update your version 1 of the game to version 2 of the game. Now, something you're going to hear again and again as I go through this is that not a whole lot looks like it has changed, at least on a superficial level. And so there's no real need to go into great depth of detail as far as the changes are concerned. So I'm going to breeze through this and talk about things that I spotted by doing some comparisons and so forth. But frankly, I haven't seen anything in here that says you are playing an outdated game if you have version 1. One of the changes is a complete new deck of exploration cards that I assume replace the cards that came in version 1. I'm looking at just from a formatting point of view, I really don't see any changes at all. I'm sure there are some changes in this deck or they wouldn't have given you a new deck. But from my play of the first edition, I wasn't having any problems. So I think it's probably more clarifications than anything else. And similarly, they give you a new deck of the oversized settlement cards, as well as the cards that are the AI of the combat system when you have creatures along with your dungeoneers on the map fighting each other. I assume they did some changes to the AI that's programmed into the cards, but I doubt that there's any humongous changes going on here. Along with the settlement cards and the AI cards, they included oversized card slips so that you can go ahead and put them in plastic, which is really nice because most of us are not going to have these oversized slips. I'm sure they were available somewhere, but they gave them to you as part of the update package. Not for the standard size exploration cards, but for the oversized cards, they go ahead and take care of you. There is a hit location die, so instead of referring to a table as far as the hit location on the body of whatever was getting hit, you roll the die and it just shows you. And there's some mystery counters. I'm not sure what these do. I see a ghostly lady and a bunch of question marks, and I don't know what these do, but there they are. Now, the rest of the update are the various books that were included with version 1. So let's go ahead and go through that. The first book is the Beastiary, and it is 44 pages with some blank pages included at the end. I don't see any big differences here. It looks pretty much the same. I assume they made some small adjustments here, but small adjustments there. I have not gone through and microanalyzed all the tables and things that are in here, but this looks extremely familiar from my play of the game. I noticed in some of these books, in fact, most of the books, is that they don't tell you that it's version 2 printed on the book. So you have to be a little careful about don't mix in the new stuff with the old stuff right away because you may not be able to tell the difference in some cases. I think this particular book has the same number of pages as the original book. So I'm going to keep them separate. I don't think I'm going to throw out the old book just because that's what I do. But I think that I am going to try to keep them physically separated so that I don't get them mixed up. All right, next book is the Quick Reference Compendium, and this is a spiral-bound book that's really, really helpful. It's got all the charts and tables in it that you need to play the game. And of course, since it's got this spiral bound, you can flip it open and it lays flat on the table. It looks very much like what was included in the original game. The big changes I can see are mostly at the end. The original game included flowcharts that looked like they came from Microsoft Excel with very spreadsheet square kind of boxes or rectangular kind of boxes connected together with the arrows and things. And I found that to be perfectly fine. In fact, I found it to be very easy to read because it was very crisp, clear printing. In this case, they included more of these, but they did it more in an artsy format that is more hand-drawn in appearance. I'm going to have to get used to this. I'm not sure I like it better than the crisp, clear Excel look of things of the original, but I'm sure I can get used to it after I get going. But everything in this book is just so useful and saves so much time when you're trying to play the game because it's all right here in this Quick Reference Compendium. The Quick Reference Compendium, as it was in the original, is just going to make the game so much easier to play as you go through scenarios. They've included some updated player aid cards, and I'm looking at the Dungeoneers Dungeon Exploration card. I do see some small changes. I don't see wholesale big changes. And unlike most of the other items, this is marked version 2.0. If you look real close up at the top, you'll see 2.0. So I don't have to worry about mixing these in with the originals. The other books, it's more hit and miss, more miss than hit, because I would have a hard time telling the difference in some of that. Then you have the Quest Book 2, and Quest Book 2 is all of the adventures that you can get yourself into as far as the base game for Dungeoneers 1.0. Here it's been updated. The 2 does not refer to version 2 of the game. It refers to, this is the second quest book. This is the main quest book. Okay, Quest Book 2 is the main quest book that you use in the game. And it's got, it's got 103 pages of stuff. Some of them are scenarios you can do again and again, because they're more or less random as far as what happens. Others are a bit more guided and more tuned to a campaign that you're working through. So you get updated Quest Book 2 with version 2.0 of the game. And pretty much it looks like it's going to be including small fixes. I look at the table of contents. I don't see any differences. I don't see huge differences in page count. So it's pretty close. Small changes here and there is what I would expect to see. And then there's the main book. The beautiful hardbound, hard-covered book that is the rule book of the game. And this particular book is, not counting the blank page at the end, shows 284 pages. 284 page rule book. Well, it's not that bad. I'll get into that in a second. But it's probably about 25 pages more than what was in the original book. Now, looking through this, I see some changes. For example, they went to a more glossy paper rather than a more flat paper from the original. That makes the artwork pop out a whole lot nicer. The colors are much more vibrant inside this book than in the original. Some people like the matte finish because it's easier to write on, but this is more glossy. Not completely glossy. I call it maybe semi-gloss. It's not in-your-face gloss, but it is got more of a glossy finish. They've also included additional artwork in here. So, for example, by the characters, there's more hand-drawn figures, or maybe AI-drawn figures these days, included. They didn't have that. They just had small pictures of miniatures in the original book. Here they're taking up a half a page with art book that used to have more of the character classes all showing up on one page. So that accounts for part of the additional 25 pages, I'm sure. But I'm sure there's other stuff too that are different. Everything from potions to spells to what can you do in town to what you do when you're adventuring to rolling up characters. The whole smash is in this humongous book. One of the things I liked from the original, it had this red placeholder that was bound into the book, so you could flip a page and put this placeholder in there. That's not in this book. I kind of miss that, but I'll put a playing card or something in there to hold my place, so it's not that big a deal. But anyway, all right, so this is the kind of changes you can expect. More of the goodness, but mostly fixed goodness. Things that are tweaked, things that are modified a little here, a little there for clarity. I saw, for example, some changes in the character class definitions that modified the starting equipment just a little bit. It's tweaks. It's not wholesale big changes. So my assessment from looking at this, from what I see, is that, you know, if you are a casual player of the game, you bring it out every once in a while, you're going to be just fine with your original setup. You are not going to notice huge differences certainly if you're a more casual player. So don't feel like you're being left out if you have not gone to the update kit or buy the second edition of the game. If you are the kind of person who is part of a dungeon group that's meeting once a week, that is the kind of person who is going to get the most out of this game. It is a lot like playing Dungeons and Dragons, and because of that, it moves about at the pace of Dungeons and Dragons. So for example, you might get together for an afternoon, and you might spend all afternoon going through one dungeon. If you spend a day, you might get 2 things done. But that's just going to move the needle a tick. To get the most out of the game, either you're going to be diving in solitaire and playing it regularly, or you're going to be part of a dungeon group that's getting together. No dungeon master, thankfully. You get to play too. And developing characters over many sessions playing the game together. If you're that kind of person, then why not get the second edition stuff? That's how I would assess it. So casual players, you're fine with version 1. Devotees, well, you probably already have it. So you know who you are. But for now, I think that's enough. If you are one of the 20,000 people who looked at the first set of videos I did on League of Dungeoneers and you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and consider hitting the subscribe button. I know I do mostly war games, but I will dive into dungeons every once in a while too. And if you have subscribed, well, I just thank you so very much. But for now, I think we've done enough. This was intended to be a short video, and I'm going to keep it that way. This is Paul, the Oaken Knight, wishing you all a pleasant evening. Bye for now.